God gave up on people. He gave them over to a reprobate mind. That is what Paul said in his letter in Romans chapter 1, the first chapter. Yahweh gave up on folks. They did not want to retain Yahweh Elohim and his way and his righteousness in their hearts and minds, and wanted to go about to do, number one, establish their own righteousness, establish their own way of doing whatever they wanted to do, when they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it. And it was what he deemed to be wicked or evil in his eyes. And he gave them over to whatsoever their mind willed, and left those folks alone to destroy themselves. I'm Coach Hadassah, metaphysician, minister, emotional health and wellness coach, helping you to navigate this healing space from narcissistic abuse. So, whether you know the scriptures or not for yourself, we are in the last days, in the last times as we know it to be. It doesn't mean that the earth is about to end or anything like that, but the world as we know it to be is coming to a close. And we have this epidemic of narcissistic personality disorders, these mental and emotional health issues that are happening in these times that the scriptures talk about. I believe it's Second Timothy chapter 3. Sometimes I get it, First Timothy chapter 4 and then Second Timothy chapter 3 mixed up, but it's in those letters. Paul wrote them. All right, and it describes narcissistic behavior. In the last days, perilous times shall come. Men shall be lovers of themselves, haughty, boastful, truce breakers, without natural affection, disobedient to parents, like all of these things. Then he said, leading captive, silly women laden with sins. But they would be revealed, and they should go no further, right? It talks about all of that. And then in Romans chapter 1, um it goes on to talk about, and I'm not going to even get deep into it. I want you to read the first chapter of Romans yourself. Just read it for yourself, because it'll reveal a whole lot. All right, but it said that Paul said that Yahweh gave them over to a reprobate mind. And so I'm just sitting here, just really, I mean, I wasn't even reading my Bible. I don't even have it near me right now, but I mean, I'm a minister, so I studied the scriptures since I was 16 years old. And so I could be sitting here meditating on something that just came up in my heart and mind, and that's what it was. I heard the spirit say to me, Yahweh gave up on them. And I'm like, say, yeah, Yahweh gave up on them. Remember Romans chapter 1? That was just right within my spirit. I'm over here cutting up apples and peanut butter, drinking tea. I'm like, what? But see, that's what happens when you eat the spiritual food through study to show yourself approved, a workman not needing to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, not man-made stuff. Okay, what Yahweh said, how he inspired holy men to write, when he gave them what he wanted them to write down to leave for the generations to come, that will pick up that book and study, like he said, to teach these things diligently to your children, because they're going to need it. And boy, do we ever. But here's the thing, that narcissistic personality disorder, those are the clinical terms that is used in psychology. It's in the Bible. It's right there. It's right there. And time again throughout the history of the scriptures, Yahweh gave up on them. I'm sorry, text messages came from my son, and I just saw Yahweh something, something, something. So he even, I don't know what he telling me, but I'm about to read it. All I saw was Yahweh that came up. But he gave up on those folks. He gave them over to a reprobate mind. They cannot change their mind if they wanted to, because he gave them chance and chance again, time after time after time after time. He warned them, he sent you in their life, he did all of that. And every single time they chose to continue on doing the things that they were doing, behaving in the way that they were behaving. And you know why? Because they thought that they were getting away with it. That's why. In their lives, they were never held accountable for their actions. Somebody always came to their rescue, okay? And to where they did not suffer the consequences of their actions. And they just got better and better and better and better at perfecting how to find those people who will not hold them accountable, who will not allow them to suffer the consequences of their actions. And then you were brought into their life in order for them to, number one, be held accountable, and two, to warn them at the same time, like, you better straighten up and fly right. This ain't gonna fly. And they resented you more and more and more and more. And Yahweh gave up on them. God gave up on them. He gave them over to a reprobate mind. So if you are still dealing with them, this is the time where you need to start praying for answers and how to get your strategy, your plan, or whatever of escape. You need to start praying. You need to start meditating. You need to start getting a support system around you, or whatever the case may be, because no changing. There is no change. Yahweh gave up on them. God gave up on them. And so if he gave up on them, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's nothing else that you can do. Once God give up on them, it's a wrap. They done. They're doing, it's a slow, I don't know, slow, fast, or whatever way to the path of destruction for them. That's it. That's it. So do what you need to do. Pack up your emotions, your psyche, your soul, all of that, and get prepared, because and especially in the time that we're in now, I mean, like, as of today, and I really don't want to date this, but as of today, it is February 27th. And usually around this time, things are starting to wrap up, because the true end of the year is March. And that's why they call it March, because the children of Israel marched right up on out of Egypt. All right. That's the reason why the Passover is in the month of Abib, or April, because the true end of the year was March. And they marched right up on out of there. This is the time. You better start, I don't, you better start doing something. You better start praying, meditating, fasting, whatever it is that you got to do. All right. Because he does, Yahweh does operate on a timeline, and you want to be on his timeline. I'm telling you what I know.